CzarThwomp here, and welcome to episode 12 of the Gray Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Last time, I spent a good chunk of the episode looking around and examining the outside of the Garadeb house as well as the top floor. And then we talked to Mr. Garadeb, who basically proceeded to tell us about how his gas lights allow him to basically be big brother of his own housing area. And now we're going to head off to the prison because basically we checked out everything we had in the Garadeb's room. Though technically, shouldn't it just be Garadeb's room with just singular tense, considering that just the other day Ryunosuke got his wife arrested? Okay. Yeah, I like how Susato, she just doesn't bring up the fact that basically basically a almost murder happened in this area. Anyways, let's go to the prison. We haven't visited this place for quite some time. It was 2 days ago, Susato! And just Soseki has given up on life. Natsume has given up on life.
Look, Mr. Naruto. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now?
Look, I'm still Mr. Naruto Esquire! Oh, yes? What is he? Help me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me? Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Sholmes? Yes, no, Sholmes is more or less the Reaper. Sherlock is the Reaper. Sherlock goes to the jail cell wearing basically the Grim Reaper robe while carrying a scythe. No! I'm not dying it! Oh, but you are, Mr. Mustache. I will ensure that you do.
He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost.
But his diabolical deductions, they're not of this world. They've left me. Ah, cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you! Well, that sort of hurts.
Credit where credit's due, Mr. Naruto. You were heavily involved in the deduction too.
Yeah, that's right. If it was just up to Sherlock, it would have been basically a cold case involving soap. Yes, moving on. We have some wonderful news. Oh? Have you hit that nasty Harlock Sholmes in the head with a brick?
The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again.
Now, in the absolute worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. But knowing Van Zieks, he would be pushing for the death penalty anyways. Van Zieks, he would be like, no, this man is a monster, and for Rose we hang him. I have the noose right here. And then just Van Zieks takes out a noose that he perfectly tied. That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume? It's terrible!
Ow!
I'm stuck in the cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick! You did, didn't you? Confess, you're the killer! Why the mustache? Constant questions! I'm sorry to hear that. Ah! That selfish shyster! Make up your mind! Are you dead or alive? If you are gonna come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly, wishy-washy, William! I swear I will. They should make that a DLC. Just basically Soseki having a philosophical and/or verbal debate with basically Shamsphere. That would be the debate to end all debates. It would be like, just move over Aristotle versus Plato. That's where we would be at. Soseki and William Shamsphere. Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamsphere was never actually dead in the first place. And my mouth is getting really moist for some odd reason. Ah, yes, that might make sense. And I believe that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last.
Ow!
Oops. Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamsphere, didn't you? I'm not saying another word! I demand to have a lawyer present! And then Ryunosuke, I am your lawyer. Who do you think I am?
Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story.
And I am starting to really stick to this chair. The leather's sticking to me. I'm gonna be stuck to the chair. I'm gonna be fused to it. Why am I cursed like this? Present the badge. You must present the badge. Have I shown you this before, Mr. Natsume? Oh yes, the sweet, sweet aroma of our beloved homeland. It shows that the wearer is a defense lawyer. It means nothing in Great Britain, of course, but I still wear it. Oh, I know exactly how you feel, welcome to Mr. Naruto Esquire. My Haramaki belly band! I don't feel right without it! Your Haramaki belly band? It's perfect for the cold English winters, just the thing to keep my tummy warm. Yes, I see the link. Almost. Let's see the soap.
Oh, what is it, Mr. Naruto?
This bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in the depression just here. A reddish one.
Yes, you're right. I remember too. But now the depression is completely empty.
Where could the disc have gone? The rush medallion has vanished. Okay. Let's see what this teacup has to offer.
This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking.
Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean.
I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark.
I always gulp it down too.
Sorry, Mr. Naruto.
Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold.
Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea.
Yes, now I'm imagining just Susato's crash course in tea.
You're not drinking your tea right, Ryunosuke.
And then Susato just takes out a ruler and just slaps Ryunosuke in the back of the head.
Spit it out and drink it again. This I'm right.
No tea in the other cup. Ripped envelope. Okay, anything we're listening? Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they?
Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And look at you, Ryunosuke. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed.
Mr. Sato, I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruto. Never!
Okay. Converse. What happened? Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume? There's nothing to tell, but Mr. Naruto Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that cousin case yesterday. The case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back.
It's hard to believe that was only yesterday.
After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings, and that evening at 9:30, it must have been, I visited Mr. Shakespeare. So you did go to the victim's room then?
As we feared.
I didn't do anything wrong! I'd never been to his room before! It was the first time! Then what made you decide to go? I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got to chatting and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell. That ties in with what Mr. Garrideb said, that the victim went out and came back after 8. We met again later that evening at around 9 or just after, and I took him some nice tea I'd brewed as a gift. So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then. And then Van Zieks hears the story and it gets the motors running in his head. And then basically Van Zieks, no, this was not an attempted murder. This was clearly a suicide. Because what rational man would accept tea from a Nipponese expecting it not to be poisoned? That tea was probably poisoned with enough poison to poison an elephant!
And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, were you?
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet, who is the stronger? It was a delightful debate! What are you gauging the strength by? Physical strength or basically political strength? Because I think politically wise, they were pretty much on par. Though I think Romeo would have clearly the advantage considering that Romeo killed Tybalt. I mean, Juliet didn't have a body count.
I'm sure.
Such a simulated subject, Shakespeare! And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shakespeare's tea. No! Never! Not at Oh, you think that... Oh, you think Romeo's stronger than Juliet? Well, let's see how the poison works. You think Juliet's stronger than Romeo? Let's see how the poison works on you. Team Juliet won, that was me, and then I left this room. When I was saying that line, I wasn't being serious. The flamboyant bell was fighting fit, I swear, categorically. Cursed existence. Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence. I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time, I've learned that it's no place for me.
It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture.
There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me. They all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. It doesn't have that fancy last night Fancy's formed a mob outside my room and threw rocks at my barred window, at my wall. Which is why I become a recluse, but even in my room, I find no respite from my fears. I moved more times than I can remember, and then 1 week ago, I moved into Briar Road. But why? I mean, why did you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable. Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me.
The rent?
Obviously, there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed. Cursed? Cursed how? The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there.
Oh no!
He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one could explain why. Surely no one would want to live in a room with a history like that. I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money. A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it was me that I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning. Brave or blinkered? But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was.
Gosh, was it really so awful?
Horrible history.
How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened?
At first, it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me. Do you think that might have been your mind playing tricks on you? Or you looking in a mirror? No, my mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the key to that place. A nightmare? You've been having bad dreams, you mean? Oh, all the souls who died in that room lean over me in my sleep and try to strangle me. That really is horrible. And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. Sorry. Just had to swallow. The very same night that Mr. Shamsu was writhing in agony from the poison in his body, I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room.
You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible.
Yes, you're right. I know it, and that's why. I'm already searching for the next room in the history to call home.
I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodations with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history. Phew.
Susai knows how to make the man listen. Of course! Mr. Lord of the Manor is worried about the curse on my room as well. You mean Mr. Garadeb? Yes, he knows that people keep dying there. He'll never be able to rent out again. Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near that place.
Perhaps that may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements.
You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. There must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants to his let rooms. What do you mean? He pays so much attention to the gas lamps?
Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume. Please, forget I said anything.
Oh, now you're talking about me by my back as well. What's important is that Mr. Shakespeare isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come around and he's able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released. Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're all right. I don't know who's talking. Why is it with you, Gregson? I can never gauge when you're coming on the scene. Inspector Gregson, I'm going to have overhearing what you just said. And on that note, I have some good news and some bad news. Oh? What do you want first? Always, every time, the bad news comes first. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle. You have no hope, ergo you have nothing. Well, in that case, the good news is... Huh? Sorry, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way. Then why did you ask me my preference? Because I wanted to get your hopes up just to crush them. As you might have learned, the victim, Mr. Shakespeare, was just unconscious. He's come around now. Yes, we saw it happen in all of its terrifying glory. He's still being treated by the doctors, but we managed to get a written statement from him already.
Ow! Isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume?
Oh, thank goodness, it's all over then. I can leave the somber cell. Sorry, no, that's not on the cards. What?
Why ever not, Inspector?
Mr. Shakespeare has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night. Implicated someone?
Oh dear.
You don't mean... I'm sorry to say I do, yes. He's pointed the finger at you, Mr. Natsume. He also said, remember, you also wanted me to tell you, strangely enough, he wanted me to tell you, remember what Romeo did to Tybalt? Well, guess what's going to happen to you? Ah! For sweet poison did he seek it to end my life. That wickedest caitiff, Soseki Natsume. No! Okay, no. Sorry, I thought it was Natsume talking. So, I'm afraid you'll be appearing in Ghost Land. You'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations. No! And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. To be continued. Okay. No, I don't want to save my current progress. 22nd February, 9:23 a.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all the same. What is wrong with me? I can't read Nasuke's lines even though it's my normal voice. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line! Good morning! Good morning to you! Good morning to you! I don't want to die! The Reaper's haunting me! Ah, good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole! Can't keep coming to court! I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed.
Mr. Naruto, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh! Mr. Natsume, good morning.
Yes, morning!
So, here we are again.
Yes, again! How just to Miss Mikotoma Esquires! What's the bad news?
Oh dear, you heard, didn't you?
If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say!
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You've done nothing wrong, Miss Susato. Now, what is it?
Well, it seems that the prosecutor in today's trial will be led by Lord Barack Van Zieks.
Van Zieks? Ah! Oh no! Oh no, no! The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. The guy who actually manages to be the lead prosecutor in 3 cases in his own in the game he's introduced in. Yeah, basically, Van Zieks, he doesn't get the 1-2 get replaced. No. Van Zieks, he actually comes in for 3 cases in the first game. He comes in for basically 3 cases in the first game, and then he comes in for more cases in this game. Of course, by the skin of our teeth. We managed to pull through, but still. Sorry. For a second, I thought that was Natsume was that Soseki was speaking.
Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter after all.
Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zieks is the prosecutor. Oh no!
That even if the person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another.
And we've experienced it firsthand. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. Ah! Do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper! I'm petrified perils, potentially!
Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume.
Welcome to it, Mr. Naru, Esquire! Ah, yes? I'm innocent! You have to believe me! You, more than anyone now! Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle, I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear.
Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom.
Let's go.
Oh yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean.
That's probably for the best.
Oh?
If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. Actually, knowing Van Zieks, he would not be surprised in the least. He would probably say something along the lines of, "Oh yes, the Nipponese has to have help from a charlatan detective. What's new? I mean, frankly, I'm not surprised in the slightest. You lack the refinement that comes from our great kingdom, so of course you'd need all the assistance you can get." At least that's my gut feeling.
Mr. Naruto.
You're right! Yes, you're so right! Oh, well said, Locust Mr. Naruto Esquire! Well said! I swear on this sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free, with honor.
Oh, yes!
The 22nd of February, 9:40 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. Yes, and notice how it's pretty much the exact same jury from basically the Briar Road trial. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare that this court be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zieks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason.
It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all.
Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Absolutely. I had a feeling this Larkin wasn't innocent before.
I must say, I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I'd rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick.
I couldn't agree more. I need to go find Bob tonight or the missus will go to the roof. She's especially angry after I told you all what she did to me that one time in this courtroom when she threw a knife at me and how she tried to throw me in the flames. Oh may the Lord show us the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict.
The British jury system is so different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of the 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London, chosen at random. Or at least, that's the idea.
The prosecution would like to draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. I ensured that it was the case, so that way I could tell you all, I told you so. I told you that wicked Nipponese man was at fault, but did you listen to me? No. You just fell for that Nipponese attorney's trap. You fell right into his trap. He flipped over his trap card. He got that his fellow Nipponese man an acquittal, and now look what has happened. He has tried to take more lives. What is wrong with you people? When will you learn? Very well, let's commence the trial. Lord Zieks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. It's to ruthlessly belittle it. Really? How many times do I have to warn you? I warn you all in the courtrooms. I warn you all over the radio. I warn you all in the streets next to the omnibus stop, but no one listens. Oh, yes. When Lord Van Zieks, he puts out his world views with Lord Van Zieks radio cast every Sunday at 3:30. No one tunes in from 3:30 to 5. No one tunes in. But yet when Rand's magazine posts Sherlock Holmes' latest escapade, which by the way is heavily doctored and is heavily exaggerated and filled to the brim with falsities, you all eat it up with a spoon. And to that I say shame on you. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoings in that affair? Far from it! He doubled down! Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime, namely that of attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman! To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. The detective responsible for the investigation of the scene and the accused himself. Witness, your names and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division.
Soseki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume. Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I am not mistaken. Now you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. Oh, you're surprised, my lord? You're surprised that this Nipponese man has gone back on his word? I remember as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord. But close enough. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case to the court.
Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Garrity household, where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, the defendant had already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poison by a strike sheet. He was found in the following morning with the landlord, suspecting something was wrong. Broke down the door. And now the game is having a really awkward load on.
This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident. Correct, my lord. It was locked on the inside, making entry to it or exit from the room impossible.
Although the victim, Mr. Shaspeare, lives to tell the tale, he very nearly did. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer to the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked.
Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased.
That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was.
Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence to the court.
The photograph has been presented.
Now then, Mr. Natsube. Yes! As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted! They're haunted by evil spirits! Good gracious, what's haunted? My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings at my lodgings! The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've been nearly killed countless times. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night happened, I returned from Mr. Shakespeare's room. I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me. You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. But it's so cold that my runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord, one more. Conclusive point. May I remind you that the defendant is Nipponese? Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shakespeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Order!
Yes, that's the crux of the whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him?
Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation? That everything, yes, I did take some brushing routine with me when I visit Mr. Shakespeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I brought bottled water, especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never!
The public pump was frozen, you say?
That's not information we've heard before.
That will do. Thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objections? None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court now. Yes, my lord! It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Strawshing takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands.
Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but the testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they?
Why didn't I think of that?
Because I run the show here, Ryunosuke.
Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to.
Did I hear that correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspected substance?
How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done?
My lord Nipponi's friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked.
Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left, nor a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. Yes, no tea ring.
With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances.
We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough.
The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question.
And then Sherlock, he sends a telepathic message to Ryunosuke. Mr. Naruto, use the soap!
I see, thank you, the matter's clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend.
What?
You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. The old man, on the right especially, he is gunning for your client. With that guilty verdict, in mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be down for all eternity.
He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't.
Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. Okay. Okay, I just want to look through them all. Okay. Okay, just wanted to check it. Okay. Okay, yeah, I want basic. Yeah, this is probably gonna be a press all.
Hold it!
Oh, let's press them all. Were you and your neighbor good friends then?
Ah, no! We weren't friends! Not at all! Not at all! Never! Ever!
A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit?
Mr. Shakespeare fancies himself as having a great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we had much to talk about together. Come now, no Nipponese can understand the finer points of English literature.
And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversations was, I presume.
It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I had just arrived back at my lodgings when I ran to Mr. Shamsby outside on the street. That was at around 6 o'clock. We exchanged one or two pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though, so I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No! Not one! Not two! Not any! Not at all! Never! Ever!
And my throat started to die.
A simple no would have sufficed, I feel.
Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room.
Sorry. Natsume's voice is destroying me.
Hold it!
Okay. A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you?
Shakespeare. Ah, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. Oh yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger?
I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go?
Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with the reenactment. So we battled it out in a Greco-Roman style, naturally.
I do not want to know the finer details of that. What?
Mr. Chandra had all sorts of costumes in his room, but just such a contest.
So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume?
He is Romeo and I is Juliet, and after a vigorous wild tussle, I as Juliet came out on top. I body slammed him. A victory I shall cherish forever. I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage.
Yeah, it's basically Soseki throwing Shakespeare out through the wall. That's how the bricks loosened.
The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room in a pot to take it with me. I heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see.
It's true. There was no sign of any tea leaves in that man's room. What if he had the tea bag?
I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. Oh, why does everyone look at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was. And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
Hold it!
Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there?
That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a board of tea before. He must have licked a drawer.
Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume.
Yes, definitely! I heaven and earth, I swear it!
The landlord was there to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night.
And how was the landlord able to attest to this?
He, said it was the lamps, I believe.
The lamps, Inspector?
When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker.
Yes, Mr. Garradeb seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants.
There's only one key to Mr. Shouse's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room.
The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes.
So I'm right. My tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that.
That's not that simple, I'm afraid.
What do you mean?
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Yeah, nope.
Hold it!
Strysine. How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison is consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping, and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seems to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure.
Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful.
30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left.
You can't deny that. And it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi.
I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord.
It says that really, the accused is the only person who could have done it.
Very well. The court will add this report to the court record as evidence.
Court record.
Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms.
Great.
Hold it!
The argument still stands, you say.
That is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it?
The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim would have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on.
Exactly! Ah, me and my tea are innocent! Sweet innocent, I tell you!
I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You say stroke seed is a slowly active poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone.
But no! We drank the tea straight away! The battle one will be whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger. That came after the tea.
Do you have any evidence to support that statement?
In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying, say no more, I don't want to hear it. Drink tea while it's hot.
Sir, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. Well, if it was an English proverb,
I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt on the matter. No!
That's the extent of their testimony, is it?
If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruto,
Of course, go ahead.
Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly, so persistently. Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating.
I agree. We need to find inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think.
I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty.
As I see it, whether we need to focus on the poison or the tea. Let's listen carefully to his testimony again.
Yes.
Okay. 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 I am not knowing what I'm doing. Oh, okay. He was completely harmless. Could have locked the door otherwise. Okay. Ingestion, toxic effects. Okay, tea and the victim was drinking, but not one sample could be tested. Okay. I'm just seeing. Okay. The poisoning incident occurred around 1:30. Okay.
Hold it!
I didn't mean to press that again. Okay. Yes, the lambs. Okay. Come on. Okay. 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 My guess is that we're going to present the tea for this part.
Objection!
Oh, no, we're not presenting the tea here. My lord, there are clearly grounds for being suspicious of that last statement.
I'm so sorry, counsel, but I fail to see why.
Well, you know, I was just playing the devil's advocate.
You don't need to play the devil's advocate, my Nipponese friend, for you are the devil. Yes, you do appear to have something of the devil in you, Mr. Naruto.
Says the man merely dishing out penalties? Okay, we'll actually get through this testimony next episode. Anyways, because I have to go. So anyways, I really appreciate that you stuck around to watch this episode. You're a great viewer and I hope you come back for the next one. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, share, do as you want. Without, see you next time. Bye.